Hey, welcome to Coach Talk. Hi, LJ. How you going?
Hi, good Dave. Good to see your smiley face. Welcome to another Zoom episode of Coach Talk. It's great that you can
We
join us.
have another Zoom episode of Coach Talk, and that's
Good.
just how we want it. We were going to catch up today and record together in the studio, and I thought, you know what? Let's Zoom it because we can video it, and the quality's not too bad. And I actually like doing it on Zoom. I think it's pretty cool.
Look, it adds another dimension, and we've
It
been
does.
wanting to get into the video side of things for a little bit. And as we're growing with our listeners and what we'd love to bring to you every week, we thought we'd just sort of say hello and in person and show you our smiley faces so that you get to know us a little bit too.
Oh, I like it. And you have no idea what the topic today is, but you will as soon as I start talking about it because it's about something you said about 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I've got a file 13 memory some days.
yeah. This will come back to you. I'm sure it will, and I hope it. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter because you're going to know this. I know you will. Today's topic.
Okay,
Are you ready?
can I disclaimer? So the reaction you're about to see on my face are completely real and genuine. So
You do a lot of disclaimers on podcasts, don't you? Disclaimers. You, this is good. You're gonna love this. For those that they're watching and listening, I did a training session with LJ way back, and the exact date I have the exact date here written down. It was 21st of June 2022, and you did a
okay,
training
that's a while
session,
ago.
and I attended this one to sit in and have a bit of a look and a listen and see you in action, and it was pretty cool. And
Thank
the
you.
topic of your training session that you did that I was quite happy to sit and look at was imagine the world is my restaurant and I am the owner.
Okay.
So that's how it started. That's how it started. I wrote a lot of notes and I was quite impressed with how you ran this training session. It was really cool. I'll read the spiel out to you and then I'm going to hand it all over to you. And this is your podcast, and this is completely as it is, raw, unscripted. You have no idea, and I love doing this to you. It's great. Are you ready?
No, strap in, put
Okay,
your
strap
socks
in.
on,
Get
and
ready.
what do they say on the rides? Please take all your stuff out of your pockets and,
Yep, yep,
and keep your hands within the containers.
yep. Feel the G's. So, imagine the world is my restaurant and I'm the owner. And then you said after that, treat the world and the people that come into my space like I am a restaurant owner. That is, the more difficult the customer, the more we work to connect with them. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. I'm not gonna lie, vaguely. Vaguely.
What resonated with me, and I went through some old notes and things this morning and thought, and I found this. I found this in some of my notes. I thought it was actually a really great session that you ran for a few people, a lot of people. That it was on a Zoom session all those years ago. What I liked about it is this is something we can all do. Imagine the world is my restaurant and I'm the owner. Treat the world and the people that come into my space, the restaurant, like I am a restaurant owner. The more difficult the customer, the more we work to connect with them. What I like about that is if you use the analogy or the metaphor of being a restaurant owner and people come in and come out, in life you're going to have people that are repeat customers, repeat business. They keep coming into your restaurant to visit you, to spend time with you, to enjoy what you have to offer. People will come in and go, just once
Yeah.
only, and it's not for them, they won't come back. People will come in and try things on with you where you have to instill boundaries and say, no, thank you, please don't do that, that's not for me. And people will come in where you just love their company and you will bend over backwards to have them come back. It's a really great metaphor on how you are as a person and how you treat everyone around you. And I thought the way that you did that, and it was, a few years ago now, I thought it was fantastic, and the way that it was structured, and what you said about how we treat people and let people in our world, while we still instill our boundaries and we still use our our values and live by our values and live by how we see our lives, but accept people for what they are. And the ones that come and go, that's okay. The ones that stay, that's also okay. And the whole thing about that, the thing about it being a restaurant, it just resonated with me, and a whole lot of it I thought was really fantastic. So maybe you don't remember a lot about it, which is even better because I like putting you on the spot. I think you need to talk about it.
You do. You do. I do remember a little bit about it, a little
Yeah,
bit, because
yeah,
it sort of was an analogy for how I try and show up in my own space with people that come across my path, and
yeah,
anyone I meet, regardless of where I am, time, wherever,
yeah,
because I hope that everybody I meet, it's a positive experience, regardless of whether we share perspective, whether we have common interest. For me, I want it to be that positive experience of going, we may not have the deep connection, or we're not going to be lifelong friends, but I made you feel seen, heard, and validated and welcomed, that we could have a conversation, whether it be 5 minutes or 5 hours. And also because I know the skills, which in my terminology back then, my skills are my menu. I know the menu that I come with,
yeah,
and how I can help diners, for let's go back to the restaurant analogy, how you can help diners kind of when they're indecisive around things, find something on the that you can help them with through the art of conversation and getting to know them, and but also holding boundaries too.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I'm a business in terms of, if you take the restaurant analogy, you're a business, you have certain operating rules, that regulations, which are essentially boundaries. Everybody is welcome, but we still have to adhere to the basics, if that makes sense.
makes a lot of
And
sense.
they yeah so you don't have to order wine. I'm quite happy to give you tap water if you want water.
Yeah,
I don't offer credit, but I will offer you a great experience should you choose to engage with me. And it's more, that analogy came out of that, I guess, how I like to show up in the space. And for me, the crankier the diner is in terms of that, I like talking to people who are a little bit gruff with the world, because once you actually hear them and get to the crux of the matter, there's an amazing story underneath there. And a lot of the time, just through taking the effort to go a little deeper on finding out more about them and validating them and asking better questions of them, that animosity, or animosity is probably not the right word, but that level of combativeness that they turned up with actually can dissipate, because they're allowed to have their say with mutual respect of perspective. And at the end of the
yeah,
day, they can show up how they choose to show up. It says more about them than it does about me.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
is that wow, that was a long time ago. I have a lot of analogies. I'm a story, not that our listeners would know from our podcasts, but I like to work in analogies because I find it's more relatable. Like when I'm talking to um not only males, because I know some females that are into the cars like I am, but when I was working in a different field, the car metaphors are really great for reaching the guys, because
Yeah,
most guys have a bit of a mechanical, technical understanding that essentially you've got to service your car if you want to keep it running. And
absolutely.
that opens you up to exploring a whole heap of different things depending on what the conversation is and what the context is. And with women, it's or teenagers or kids, you can always find an analogy that helps you connect with somebody and helps you actually make that experience of dining with you positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did a podcast recently, which might have been our last one. We talked about listening skills and effective listening skills in everybody, and strategies and things that we can do to become better listeners and up level in our listening abilities, which is I love that podcast. It was a great one, LJ, and we talked about a lot of things. It was really good. And that ties in a little bit to what we're talking about here with the more difficult the customer, the more we work to connect with them. And a lot of that is how we are in our listening skills as well. So when a customer comes into our restaurant, we listen, we actively listen, we try to figure out what is it they want, what can we do for them, until we get to a point, and you did talk about boundaries, which I love as well. We get to a point where they overstep their boundaries. At that point where, as a restaurant owner, you say, this is not for me, this is not appropriate, please leave my restaurant. And everybody has a right to have that boundary in their personal life as well. When someone comes into their world that is really destabilizing and causing so much instability, everyone can say, this is not for me. I'm sorry, but it's just not for me.
Absolutely.
Get out of my restaurant. And I know this is a skill not a lot of people feel comfortable doing. And we talked about people pleasers and people that are people pleasers. It's a hard one to work out. It's a challenging skill to have when you need to have a conversation with somebody and say, this is not appropriate, this is not for me, thank you very much, I wish you all the very best. And you go different ways. But it's a skill nonetheless, and it's a great skill to have, because if I walked into any restaurant and started causing all sorts of trouble for whatever, and it was against the policy of the restaurant, it was upsetting other customers, it was loud and abusive and whatever, without a doubt the restaurant owner would say, you've got to go. You need to leave, and you need to leave fairly soon, because I'm causing instability through the whole environment of this restaurant, which is the metaphor. Why can't people do the same thing?
I guess it kind of depends on not just the level of screaming at you that person comes in with. It's like we talked about in one of the other, we've talked about it before, like the body language and the context, and there's a whole gamut of things that make up that response, whether you kick them out or whether you sit them down and say, look, it looks like you're having a really hard day, can I get you a glass of water, just sit here for 5 minutes. The boundaries I'm reminded of in another context as well. So let me ask you a question. When you go to a restaurant, do you just order off the menu, or do you and just go, yep, I'll do that? Or do you actually ask questions about food?
I always ask questions about the food. Nearly every time I always ask questions about the food.
And how much does that influence? Because I know it does for me if I've got a question about a couple of the dishes on a menu, for example. If there's sometimes you have health in terms of dietary restrictions. If you don't ask those questions around, can that dish be made without that because I've got an allergy, you're just going to choose something, and if the meal's not to your liking because you didn't ask the question, you're going to find that your experience there wasn't as great as you thought it would be, and you're going to put that experience accountability back onto the team and back onto the restaurant because you weren't confident enough to actually ask a question that affected your outcome. That's a really big topic, isn't it?
It's a very big topic.
Just through actually having the self-preservation in some respects to actually, and we're still talking in a dining context because I think that that's a really good one that everyone can relate to. I know people that are allergic to garlic, and how many times do you see dishes that have got garlic in it? Can this dish be made without garlic because it sounds amazing? The response from the staff could be one of two things, or a couple of things. It can be, no, I'm sorry, it can't be because the garlic's infused at the preparation stage, or let me check with the kitchen, or absolutely we can do it. We'll just take that out for you. So you've actually gone from just having no alternative and thinking that it is the way it is to actually having three alternatives, which is always better because then you make a more informed choice. And your dining experience is then enhanced because you had self-preservation and also you had a better conversation with the person that you're coming across. Like everything leads back to connection. Everything leads back to connection and confidence and listening and body language. we're humans. As great as technology is and texting, it's so convenient, we actually are missing or negating a more vital part of who we are as human beings, because our innate need to connect is inbuilt. We can't run away from it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the more we try and disconnect from those basic instincts, the worse our dining experience is going to be.
Yeah. If we treat the world and the people that come into our space like we're a restaurant owner, this also includes, and I'll use restaurant like we are at the moment, this also includes closing time and opening time.
Yeah.
So, what's your view on that? And I know that, for example, I know a guy who says that 10 p.m. on the dot, his phone goes off every night. He won't answer phone calls. He won't answer texts. He just shuts down at 10 o'clock. And 10 o'clock onwards is his time to decompress, read, do what he wants to do in his life. Unless it's an emergency, he won't answer phone calls or answer social media, anything like that. That's his closing time of his restaurant, I guess. So a
Yeah.
restaurant always closes down at whatever time it is. They're closed overnight. They open again the next day. There's a time in a 24-hour day. There's a period where the restaurant is closed and not accessible to other people. How healthy do you think that is also as humans, that we have time for ourselves and actually limit our time for others or our time to need to do things for others? How important do you think it is that we actually have self-care and time for ourselves to be able to replenish, restock, and all those things that like
I
what a
love
restaurant
this.
would do?
It's it's essential. It's absolutely essential.
Yeah,
And yes, there will be some, like if you've got elderly parents or you've got kids, or there will be those people, a select group of people that are in your inner circle, like you and I talk about the HTBB kind of component, that
yeah,
regardless day or night, if they call you late, you know it's needed, and that there's genuality around that. But as a general rule, for your mental health and well-being and your physical health and well-being, you people don't need access to you 24/7.
yeah,
Not everybody, not the wider, which I think is why people get so most of us get so annoyed when you get telemarketers ringing you after hours. It's like, oh my God, it's after hours, because for them that's the ideal time, because you might pick up the phone, but for it's intrusive to those receiving the phone calls, because it's like, this is my personal space time, and personal space is really, really important for
yeah,
you to actually nourish, reflect, show gratitude,
yeah,
plan,
yeah,
and grow.
yeah. Yeah. That's another skill that it's all of us can work on, is actually devoting time to yourself, even as a
It's really,
parent.
really important.
Yep, as a family, a parent, or in a marriage, whether you're on your own, whether you have parents to look after that are elderly, any situation you live or you are in, I think it's, as you just said, it is so important, and a skill to devote on a regular basis, devote time to yourself and your own growth, your own rest. You can rebuild. It's a daily thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great skill to have. Just like the restaurant closes, and as it's closed, people do come along. People might have access to restock um, the shelves or restock the bar or whatever else it is. But for the general public, there's a time when people don't have access, and I think this is a great metaphor, this restaurant that you talked about a few years ago, because it shows us that we also need time to be able to just shut down for a little bit and take time for ourselves. And I don't think in a busy world that we live in these days, not enough people do that.
Oh, 100%.
Mm,
Uh, okay, if you think about it from the restaurant context, if you're open 24/7, when do you wash your tablecloths? When do you vacuum the floors? When do you clean up after you've had your patrons in there? When do you do your food prep? When we take that context and we put it into a family time, if you're a mum or a dad, if you're not looking after yourselves, which is selfless, because we our families deserve and our partners deserve the best of who we are. And unfortunately, we're conditioned, and this is going to be very unpopular, but we're conditioned to actually give the best of who we are to our workplace, and our families and our partners get the dregs. They deserve to have the best of us, which is why it's really, really important to say, hey, I need just a little bit of time and space to regroup and re-energize. Because if you're not looking after you, how can you look after the people that are the most important in your world? And
Yeah.
then we take that again from another context of going, so you're looking after you, and then you need to nurture and look after your primary relationship, which is normally your partner. So if you're not nurturing your relationship with your partner, first of all, that suffers. Second of all, your children watch. And then because the partnership becomes incoherent, then it affects the family unit. And so the flow on effect from that, like I'm not going to dive too much into that. This whole concept of taking care of yourself first so that you can show up for the people that you care about has such a massive ripple effect. And that's not to say that work doesn't get the best of you. It if you turn up because you value yourself, because you have standards for yourself, absolutely you go to work and you do the best of your ability in the job that you've selected to do, or that you're in place of employment. Absolutely you show up. But your energy and your primary focus for showing up the best you can be should be for those, your partner and the family that you care about and your inner circle, because you deserve the best of you so that the people you care about get the best of you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's a short but effective podcast, this one, and I think that if we were to challenge our viewers and listeners this week, is to spend 1 week, just the whole week, and use this metaphor as you are the restaurant or the owner of the restaurant, and treat the world and the people that come into your space like you're the restaurant owner, and spend a whole week to figure out, when are your opening closing times? What are your boundaries? What do you let people do? How do you serve your people? What do you do with difficult customers? And use the whole thing and think a little bit about it. And I think that you would find a shift, quite a good shift and a change in your week by the end of the week. And you know
Yeah.
what, even LJ, I'd love to hear from people on the website about if they had any result with that, because if they honestly give it a week and treat it like a restaurant owner, I think there would be quite a shift in some people out there.
Absolutely. And also in the Facebook group too, because your perspective and what you've put in for the challenges that we set in and how you're finding them, those little gold nuggets that come from each of us, because you and I learn gold nuggets from just people we meet in coffee shops. Your perspective could really, really help somebody else. So join us in the community on the Facebook page, and let us know what's working for you and what you're
Yep.
loving, and you know, your little part of enriching the page is going to actually enrich somebody else's world as well. But there's so much to really consider here. And primarily, if we're not looking after us and we're not holding our standards and we're not holding our boundaries, it's easy to say, it's a challenge to do, but I know that you're up for the challenge.
Yep.
The other side of it is, it's when we lose track of what's important in our space around who we are as people and who matters in our world, and who should show up for primarily, that we get a little bit lost, because we find that our version of reality that we envisaged when we were younger, and a lot of people, that they love the concept of having their kids and their family and growing up and doing all these things, but it's when you find that what you hoped for, or what your mindset around what you planned and what your reality is, when that's incongruent, you're going to find yourself really, really lost and struggling 9 times out of 10 anyway.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to find your way back is to let's go back to the restaurant analogy. Plan the restaurant. If that restaurant represented who you are as a person, what would it look like? What decor would you have? What would knives and forks? What colored napkins? What food would you serve? How many people would you have in there? Really plan it out, because it helps give you clarity around the standards, the type of people you want to have eat at your tables, the type of foods that you want to serve, the environment that you want to create, because essentially any business is an outward reflection of who we are as individuals.
I love it. I love it. So what does it mean then, since you spoke about this all those years ago and you're an expert, on this, what does it mean when you walk up to the restaurant and there's a big sign across the window saying under new management?
It means you've actually done the work. I love it when that happens, because it
Under
means
new
you've actually
management.
done the work. You've grown. So, I mean, I use the mandrake plant analogy a lot. And you've had your mandrake moments where you've actually pulled yourself out of the pot you're in, or you've evaluated the premises that you originally had your restaurant in, and you've gone, do you know what? Clientele is so amazing, and I love what I do, and I want to share it more with people in a different context, because I'm growing and I'm evolving. We're under new management, and I'm actually then going to start another premises as well, because how awesome is that?
Nice. I was trying to surprise you with that, but you had an answer for it, so no surprise.
Oh,
How's that for a
you,
quick
you do
podcast?
stump me. You do stump me a lot. I love that. Thank you. I have to really thank you so much for remembering that, and for sharing that made an impact in your world. That really touches my heart. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. That was a long time ago, but I went through some notes and thought I found a little bit of gold nuggets. So here we go. It's a great little podcast and something to think about. So thank you for sharing the insights and remembering all about it. It's been a great trip down memory lane and back to the restaurant.
Oh, I look forward to hearing how everyone's restaurant's going, and the diversity in foods and ranges, and yeah, can't wait.
It's going to be great. So thanks again. This is a great one. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Have
Thanks,
a great
LJ.
week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, it's LJ and Dave here. Thank you so much for listening to the latest podcast.
We love what we do, and we know you get something great out of each and every publication.
So don't forget to jump on the website, coachtalk.com.au, leave us a message, let us know what you're up to, what you're enjoying, what you're loving most, and what else you'd like to see us do.
You can also find all of our content on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Apple Music.
Coachtalk.com.au is the website.
Coach Talk.
We've got you.